This is Trend Following Radio, where great thinking comes alive. Nobel Prize winners, legendary traders, best-selling authors, and the pros that know what drive us irrational human beings. I am your host, Michael Covel. Not filtered, raw, honest. That's my passion. One of my most fun experiences these days, especially when I'm in Saigon, or only when I'm in Saigon, that would be Saigon, Vietnam. For those of you that have not had a chance to listen to this podcast, I do try to spend a little time there. And because of this podcast, people will reach out to me and say, I'm in Saigon, let's meet. Now, here's one of the filters that I use. If they say, we're staying at the Park Hyatt, let's meet, Mike, good filter. Because I got to tell you, the Park Hyatt in Saigon, it's sweet. It's primo. There's 3 or 4 places in Saigon to stay. But if someone tells me they're staying at the Park Hyatt, they're generally serious, which often makes for an interesting conversation and is exactly what has happened in Saigon over the last 3 or 4 days. I had a chance to spend a little bit of time with 4 guys that had come to Saigon, 2 brothers, their best friend, and their financial advisor, I believe. 4 guys from New York. 1 of them had been to Saigon. 3 of them had not. I'm guessing all somewhere between 55, 60, somewhere in that range. Instant love. Instant love. You know, over the years, I talk about being in these different locales, places that you might not imagine if you've never set foot in Asia. But it's so fun to see guys that have been very experienced. The 4 guys that came here had a lot of experience, a lot of success. They were not brand new guys. But to see those kinds of people come here from New York City and just have that open mouth aha moment of like, wow, 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 wow. So cool. So I implore you, if you want to, share a beer, share a dinner, whatnot, when passing through Saigon, please drop me a line. So far, I've had pretty good luck with this. And again, the filter seems to be the Park Hyatt. And to try and give a little bit of a description on that compared to, let's say, the typical Hyatt in the typical city in America. The Park Hyatt here, vaulted ceilings, girls wearing the algies, which would be the traditional dress they wear in Vietnam. Very elegant, very classy. It just has that feel to it. Now look, I'm not against getting out and sitting on little plastic benches and eating street food and drinking beer. I don't really drink much beer, but you know what I mean. I'm not against that either. But this is just, as I point out, it's a great filter. And anyways, these 4 guys seem to be really interesting guys and fun to meet them, fun to hear their stories. And it's just cool about life, right? You got to get out there and shake it. So the next time somebody sends you an email and you don't know who the hell they are, and you don't even have time to Google them, but if they're staying at the Park Hyatt, at least go meet them. What can possibly hurt to go meet them? You could end up with a new friend, a new partner, a new whatever. Today, I want to get into something I have learned about in the last few weeks. And I don't know the exact pronunciation by Bitcoin and crypto aficionados, but a few years ago, and it was described to me like this. Let me just read this text for context. Michael, during a 2013 Bitcoin crash, there's been many Bitcoin crashes, a Bitcoin forum member posted that he was holding despite the crash. Now, he spelled holding Hodling. He got the D and the L mixed up. It was a spelling error that took hold, HODL, and morphed into shorthand for hold on for dear life, hold your Bitcoin through the volatility and crashes. Even when you think it's dead, don't get shaken out or chopped up in your trading, and one day you will get the Lamborghini or Angelina Jolie. So that's kind of fun, kind of cool, right? HODL, HODL, shorthand for buy and hold, right? Buy and hold in the crypto space. That's the strategy. You know, that can be kind of hard to argue with some young guys right now that have made bloody fortunes, right? If you were a first mover and you got in there and you've just held on, hodled, hey, it's turned out really nice, right? It's turned out gangbusters. So I went back and I found this original post. At least I think this is the original post. And let me read it. It's filled with spelling errors and shorthand, but I think the flavor of what he's saying is really interesting. He says, I typed that title twice because I knew it was wrong the first time. Still wrong. Girlfriend's out at a lesbian bar. BTC crashing. Why am I holding? I'll tell you why. It's because I'm a bad trader and I know I'm a bad trader. You got good traders, can spot the highs and lows, pit pat, piffy, wing, wong, wang. Just like that, I'd make $1 million, sure, no problem, bro. Likewise, the weak hands are like, oh no, it's going down, I'm going to sell. He. And then they're like, oh my God, asshole. When the smart traders who know what the fuck they're doing buy back in, but you know what? Question mark, I'm not part of that group. When the traders buy back in, I'm already part of the market capital. So guess who you're cheating, day traders, not me. Those taunt threads saying, oh, you should have sold. Yeah, no shit. Should have sold. I should have sold moments before every sell and moments before every buy. But you know what? Not everybody is as cool as you. You only sell in a bear market if you're a good day trader or an illusioned newbie. The people in between hold. In a zero-sum game such as this, traders can only take your money if you sell. So I've had some whiskey. Actually, on the bottle, it's spelled whiskey. Sue me, but only if it's payable in Bitcoin. Now, what I love about that post is it really gets some of the spirit of the millennial Bitcoin crypto generation expressed, right? And by the way, the guys that I mentioned at the top of this podcast, they said, Mike, you've really dropped a lot of F-bombs recently. They said they seem to have picked up. So I really said to myself on this episode, no F-bombs. I'm going to be calm. Unfortunately, in the passage that I just read, I quoted somebody dropping an F-bomb, but that doesn't count because that was not me in particular. But let's take his paragraph apart because there's some great lessons in there. I'm not necessarily going to have absolutes, but I'm going to put some questions and frame some skepticism around what he wrote. Now, I love the fact that he says he knows he's a bad trader. That's great self-reflection. Daniel Kahneman would love that. So you already know out of the gate, he's somewhat humble. He kind of gets that he doesn't know how to do the trading. He doesn't seem to think, though, or at least he's not yet saying, is that trading can be learned. He's just saying he's not a bad trader. I don't know if he thinks he could possibly learn more, but at this point in time, he's saying, I just should hold. That's great self-reflection, 100% spot on. Now, here's where it gets tricky. His next sentence. Good traders can spot the highs and lows just like that and make $1 million, sure, no problem, bro. Now, that's just not true. There is no one alive, or you might find one person, and if you can only find one person, what the hell does that mean? There's no one alive that can regularly spot highs and lows. So you're already starting to see in this famous Bitcoin passage, the mythology that this is true. Now, he could have gone out and he could have checked through some books and studied a few traders and figured out what he is saying is not really grounded in anything. But he doesn't know. And again, he also said at the beginning, I'm a bad trader. But he thinks there's some really good ones out there. That's not a bad way to think either. It's not a bad way to say, hey, I know there's some really good traders out there. They're not me. Now, his view of what a really good trader is and what the capabilities of a really good trader might be, now that's off. But then he comes right back and he talks about the weak hands, jumping out, selling. Now, here's the key. Jumping out and selling doesn't mean you have a weak hand. It does not mean that. Taking an exit does not mean you have a weak hand or a weak stomach or you're a bad trader. It means you have a strategy. Because if you're taking a loss, it means you don't know why the trade did not go in your direction and you're getting out to preserve capital. Why not? Of course you should do that. Now, on the flip side, this poster is right if he's talking about the quote noobs, the newbies, who really are devoid of plan and just jumping around based on emotion alone. If he's only talking about that, he's right. And he probably is only talking about that. I'm expanding the view, though, to get you to see that getting out and taking an exit, not hodling, there's nothing wrong with that. Now, he goes on to talk about the smart traders who know what the fuck they're doing. Again, I kind of like this guy. He's got some of the big picture figured out. He doesn't really have it all figured out, but the smart traders who know what they're doing. He's right. There's a tremendous amount of smart traders that know what they are doing. How did they become smart traders? How do they know what they're doing? What is doing the right way? Those are all things that can be learned. Those are not innate skills. You pick those up along the way. You learn, you study, you go find from people before you. And that is one thing that I'm seeing in the Bitcoin generation right now is they seem to have drawn a line in the sand to say, we are the beginning. We are Genesis. And everything that came before us, irrelevant. So, for example, all the other markets that have been traded back to David Ricardo's time in the 1700s, all those other markets, and markets are just made up of what? People buying and selling, supply and demand. There's no difference. I mean, Bitcoins could be called widgets. It doesn't make a difference. Futures trading, stock trading, who cares? It's just not relevant what the name of it is. What's relevant, what are you really trading? You're trading human beings, human spirit, human desire for wealth, greed, fear. You're trading human emotion, and human emotion reduced price. So I would implore anyone right now who is heavily into Bitcoin, but who has not done their research, their homework across the other marketplaces that have come before Bitcoin, please go read up. Because when the dust settles, and the dust will settle, it will all look the same. And Bitcoin will just be another name, another variable. Ethereum, Litecoin, I don't care. It's going to look like any other market that's moved up and down. Now, getting back to this post, now one of the things he says at the end, which should really cause investors and traders, especially those that have got a little experience, a little insight as to how the game works, this should cause a little bit of pain to hear. You only sell in a bear market if you're a good day trader or a disillusioned noob. Now, what that implies is the bear market will always end. It will always come back. Hence, the holding, the hodl, the HODL. Buy and hold, which would be the common Wall Street vernacular for what the crypto folks have invented with hodl, has no exit strategy. Having no exit strategy can be the difference between one life and another life. I am not so cocky to sit here and say that some people will get onto a trend with zero exit strategy, and depending on when they start in their lifetime, it runs for 30 years, 20 years, whatever, and it was a perfectly fine strategy. They retire at 50, and boom. But if you blur your eyes and you take a step back and you apply the scientific method, and you say, hold on. We can't just trust that everything will go up. We can't just sit through losing periods that go down 50, 75% and expect that falling knife to come back. It doesn't always come back. There's enough proof, enough evidence across other types of markets going back centuries. And don't try and tell me that crypto's different. It could be different. I'm not saying that. But you can't treat it that way. You've got to think like a scientist. You've got to apply some statistical grounding here. Because you could wake up one day and a 75, 80% drawdown, you might not recover from it. And there is utility to money. If you started in Bitcoin and it comprised 5% of your net worth, and it now comprises 75% of your net worth, that's a big deal. That's a really big deal. So the idea here is to step back and say, what is my portfolio? When am I entering? When am I exiting with a loss? When am I exiting with a gain? And how much of my limited capital am I going to bet on each trade? Whether that's the stock market, the futures market, the currencies market, gold, silver, palladium, corn, wheat, crypto, Ethereum, who cares? You're just trading people and their greed and fear. As I wind out today, I want to share one of my favorite experiences from my world. I personally love anyone who comes at me as a critic. I love it. What I especially love, though, is when the criticism comes at me this way. It's logical fallacies, ad hominem attack, all tied together with somebody who has a full-blown cognitive dissonance. So they really have these kind of messed up, illogical arguments in their head. They're pulling a line from my work out of context, drawing a conclusion that I don't draw. And then they're doing this because what I have done and what the many people across this podcast and the many great names that are quoted in my books, what all that information, with that content, with that wisdom, what those insights have done, it's caused people to question themselves because they made a bet on a certain way of thinking. And if somebody makes a bet on a certain way of thinking, and let's say they're not the most open-minded person, they don't have a lot of flexibility. They could be smart, but there's not a lot of flexibility in their mind. They've not taken a lot of shots to the stomach. They've not got their ass kicked a lot, right? When you get your ass kicked a lot, good things happen. You get tough. I mean, if you can look at your body right now and you have no scars on your body, come on. Go find a scar. Seriously, if you don't have a scar on your body right now, go get yourself a scar. I don't care how. Literally and figuratively, get the scar. That type of criticism makes my day. It is part of my purpose. I live for that someone out there, a complete stranger, has been made so uncomfortable by something that I did. Perhaps I dropped too many F-bombs. I saw someone call me recently vulgar. Okay, I don't really think I'm a vulgar guy, but they didn't want to hear an F-bomb and they got a conclusion in their head that I'm vulgar. But getting people triggered into lashing out irrationally, literally screaming, watching them shake in their writing. How did I get so fortunate to have such a fun existence? I do have one favor I would like to ask. If you like my newest edition of Trend Following, go out onto Amazon now and give it a review. Tell me what you think. And I got to tell you, I know the audiobook is great because I put it together. And Kindle versions are great for people on the move. But the newest edition of Trend Following, the hardcover, is the single most special product that I have created. It absolutely is cool. I picked it up again today, and just holding it in my hands, I'm like, wow, this thing is cool. Even if I didn't write it, I would say it's cool. And for those of you that don't know, and I know many people don't because it's only been out for about 7 or 8 months, this newest edition of Trend Following that came out in 2017, completely rewritten and expanded by nearly 100% in content. It's a beast, an absolute beast. I guarantee you will thank me when you pick it up. Oh, one last point that I want to make, something that I completely skipped from that original email the crypto guy wrote. He had a last line in there. He said, in a zero-sum game such as this, the crypto trading, traders can only take your money if you sell. That's a really interesting thought, isn't it? If the price level is 1,000 for whatever market we might be talking about, whatever particular example crypto market, if the price level is 1,000 and you are holding, but the price level drops to 100 and you're still holding, how do you still have the money? You didn't sell, but it dropped 90%. Let that sink in for a second. This is the foundation, much of the foundation of inexperienced, I'm not saying not smart, but inexperienced crypto traders truly believe that in a zero-sum game such as crypto trading, traders can only take your money if you sell. That is a great jumping off point for anybody and everybody to wrap their arms around that logic and say, true or false. I see a time when those awake will understand how to make money in up, down, and surprise markets. Whether new trader or experienced, college student or financial advisor, protecting against a crash or just trying to make a lot of money, Trend Following offers everyone an answer in uncertain times. To get started immediately, send me an email, michael@covel.com. I will send you the right trend following steps to take along with my free video. But if you want to buy and hold, trust the government and trust Wall Street, this is absolutely not for you.